guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday, which normally means it's time for a Talk Magic, but not today. We are bumping the Talk Magic for a week. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm having 2 hours sleep light. It has nothing to do with the fact that I've never been so busy in my life. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I literally haven't had time to breathe, let alone sit down and interview somebody. It's got nothing to do with the fact that if I did sit down and try and interview somebody, I would probably fall asleep listening to them, no matter how exciting their life is. It's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with the fact that I thought that you guys would prefer to have a sneak peek of what goes on in the Netrix. And normally what happens in the Netrix stays in the Netrix. It's a little bit like Las Vegas, but way more geeky. But we're opening the curtains for you guys today, and I'm going to let you see a VMC in its entirety. Well, I say in its entirety. We've clipped the bits off at the end where we start talking bollocks, and we're just doing the bit that kind of has some substance, because what a VMC is when you're a silver or a gold member of the Netrix, you get access to something called a VMC. It stands for Virtual Magic Club. We have 4 of them a month, and there's normally a theme to them. It's normally a particular, like it might be all about chop cups, or all about card controls, or all about this or that. You know, they're very different every single time. And then what will happen is I'll run the VMC. They're meant to last about an hour. We do spend about an hour to an hour and a half talking about the subject, but then it very quickly degenerates into an hour and a half of a load of people who love magic talking bollocks. And it's super fun, and it's like my own magic club, and the people that are in the VMC are absolutely amazing. And we run 4 of these a month. I thought I'd let you see the latest one, because the latest one was on the approach. In other words, how to approach a group of people. And I spent about an hour to an hour and a half talking about the approach. I talked about everything that I know about approaching a group of people. And there were lots of questions for the people that were on the VMC that I also answered, and I answered all of their questions. And I thought it would be a useful thing for people who are on Magic TV to see, for a couple of reasons. One, I get asked about approaching groups all the time, so I thought this would be valid information for everybody. And 2, it shows you what goes on in the silver level of the Netrix. I think the silver level is the best value in Magic. You've got access to everything in the bronze level, including all of the tricks and the sleights, and we're adding new tricks all the time. I'm about to film 4 new routines now, but on top of that, you've also got the weekly Zooms, and you've got access to all the business courses and all the interviews with all the business experts. There's a lot you actually get. If you do want to join the Netrix, you go to thenetrix.com and you can get access immediately. The cool thing is, when you are a Netrix silver level subscriber, we record all the VMCs and then we upload them to the archives. And when you become a member of the Netrix, you get access to every single masterclass and every single VMC we've run right from the first one. That's 4 years of VMCs. That's a lot. 4 a month. 4 or 5 years worth of VMCs. There's a lot of VMCs that you can go back and watch on top of all the other content. So it's great value. It really is. But regardless of all of that, if you want to see what goes on inside of VMC, and you want to learn how to approach a group of people, and which is the hardest thing as a close-up magician, it's the hardest thing to do, approach a group of people, then this is a video that's going to show you how to do this. And at the end, it'll abruptly cut off, because that's when we start talking bollocks, and that's when we start cracking out the drinks and talking magic and stuff that you guys don't need to see. That genuinely stays in the Netrix. But you can look at the other stuff, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's roll the footage.
Not the worst.
So, hello. I mean, this is going to, let's be honest, this will very quickly devolve into just probably lots of waffle and bollocks, but at least we'll try and keep it on track for a while. So welcome to the latest VMC. For people that aren't here live, you really should be here live, because we've had a half an hour conversation before the things even started. However, we're now going to get going into what I think, and I want to make this interactive. So ideally, hopefully, if you guys have any questions on this subject, or have any experience on this subject that you can share as well, that'd be amazing. But for me, this is the single most important thing that you need to learn if you want to do magic professionally, close-up magic professionally, and that's the approach. In other words, how to approach a group of people. It is so vitally important, and it's the thing that a lot of magicians overlook. I speak to a lot of magicians that want to start doing it full time, and they want to start doing close-up magic full time, and they talk about the set lists, and they talk about how many tricks they've got, and they talk about how to routine the tricks, and what should be the opener, and what should be the closer, and what should be the middler, and how you get the people's attention, and how all of this different stuff people talk about. But the one thing that everybody overlooks until they actually get to their first gig is, oh shit, I've actually got to go and walk up to people. Because most gigs that you go up to, most gigs that you will get booked to, they don't know that there's going to be a magician there. You just look like one of the people that is at the event. So you have to go into a room of people who have no idea that you're there as an entertainer. They're all having their own private conversations. You have to walk up to a group of people who are having private conversations, introduce yourself, somehow get them to stop doing what they're doing and listen to what you're saying, and then hopefully be interesting enough that they agree that it would be a good idea for the next few minutes to completely stop doing what they're doing and watch magic from you. It's a weird situation when you actually think about it. No other entertainment is like that. There's no other form of entertainment. Most entertainment is done on stage, or if it's a walk around performer. I go to lots of walk around gigs where there's other walk around performers other than magicians, but typically they're like jugglers and they're just standing there walking around juggling, or they're, like stilt walkers and they're walking around with stilts on, and you can tell that they're there to do whatever stilt walkers do, or they're fire breathers and they're just standing off to one side breathing fire. I can't think of another form of entertainment where they don't really realize that you're there as an entertainer and you've got to walk over to a group and kind of interject yourself and make yourself interesting enough to, it's kind of weird. You don't see that with stand-up comedians. You don't hear a stand-up comedian going and doing walk around stand-up comedy. Hey, my name's Craig. I'm a stand-up comedian. Would you like to hear a joke? Knock, knock. That doesn't happen. But somehow it's happened in magic, and it's become this whole thing that's really kind of a weird environment to go into. And then, I've just said to you guys, I've just come from a gig. So I've just come from doing a corporate Christmas party. There were about 150 people there. I was in a room for 2 hours. And the other thing you need to understand is a lot of these places, the party I've just been to, it was pitch black. You could barely hear anything. There was a band set up, and they weren't actually playing. The band weren't playing. However, they were playing music before they actually came on after I left. And the music they were playing is so ridiculously loud. So people can't hear you. You're walking up to people going, hello, and they can't see you. They can't see you. They can't hear you. Other times you're going to go to gigs and it's like, you're going to be completely swamped. There's going to be like 200 or 300 people there. Sometimes you're going to be going to gigs and it's outside. I've gone to gigs in the past where everybody can't speak English or they can't communicate with me. I've even done, and this is true, I've even been and done 2 hours of close-up magic for an event where everybody was blind and deaf. Let that sink in for a minute. I'm deadly serious.
How did they
So
know you were there?
exactly. Exactly. So, although I once sent Nemid to do a 2 hour fun-filled disco, which is one of our kids' packages. No, he's done lots of fun-filled discos, but I sent him one to a deaf school, and I remember him turning around to me, going, "Hang on, you wanted me to do a disco for a school of children who are deaf?" And I was like, "Yep." He's like, "What's the point? Should I just put the flashy lights on?" And I was like, no, because I'd spoken to the client. I was like, you play the music with a lot of bass, they're going to feel the vibrations.
Yep.
He's like, what? I said, they're going to feel the vibrations. He's like, are you mad? I'm like, no, just go there and put the bass on and they'll feel the vibrations. He's like, what am I supposed to do with party games? I'm like, they're deaf, but they can see you. They can see. Anyway, however bad the situation is, it could be worse if your name's Nemid Phoenix. That's the
I have a question for that.
Just before,
No,
hey,
not
Andres,
yeah.
before you go there, just Craig, what did you do with the deaf and blind?
They were all both deaf and blind, or some were deaf and some were blind.
Right, that was my
Yes.
wondering there.
There were
Shane.
deaf and blind, but some were deaf and some were blind.
Got
So
it.
I
Yeah,
focused on the
50-50, a
ones.
mixed
Yeah.
crowd. Okay.
I focused on the ones that were one or the other.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's
it
a 5x5. All right, that's a session.
It was not an easy gig. When you've been doing this as long as me, you'll get yourself into the craziest situations that you'll ever find yourself in. And I'm going to talk you through the approach, and we'll talk about the approach in terms of different gigs. But did you have a question, Andreas? I want to try and stay on topic at least for a while. I know we're going to get off topic
My question is on that.
Okay.
Interestingly, and I know that you are talking about verbal approaches and your opening. You've mentioned that quite often on Magic TV and also here. But the question that I have is, and I think this might be a UK versus US versus German or European style. I assume, not having seen that, but seeing my magician colleagues here, they have some fancy dress up. So like a sequin shirt or a sequin jacket or so, that are obviously you are dressed above the normal people around, a little bit special, like an entertainer should be expected to look, and that qualifies you when you approach a group as being the awkward guy that entertains, that are doing fancy stuff. So the verbal introduction is just a follow-up of your first impression already. How is that in the UK?
Most people, the general rule of thumb in the UK is that you dress. No, okay, this is what most people say. The advice you get from most magicians is dress slightly better than the audience they have in front of you. So you want to kind of, now there are magicians in the UK that will dress in a very colorful outfit. Like Simon, don't you dress in like an all red thing that's part of your brand?
Yeah, a red jacket.
Yeah, so some magicians will dress up in kind of an outfit that's hey Nick, how you doing? So sometimes magicians will dress up in like like an outlandish outfit or a colorful outfit or an outfit that will allow them to stand out. Like I say, Simon has an outfit that's like all red because that fits with his brand, and that's really cool. Then you look at somebody like William Bajaya, and he has like lots of different colorful suits and with Pac-Man on them and stuff and different things, which is absolutely fine. But the majority of performers in the UK, at least, they typically just wear a suit and a shirt and a tie. So I tend to wear one of two things when I go out, depending on the gig. And I don't tend to, and I don't tend to deviate from these two outfits. The first I'm sure you've seen me wear this, like it's a black t-shirt, a plain black t-shirt, suit jacket, suit trousers. So it's like a suit with a plain black t-shirt. And the other thing that I wear an awful lot is kind of what I kind of think of as my old school outfit, is like a black shirt, black suit, black tie, red braces. Those are the kind of the two and that's what I was wearing tonight. Black shirt, red braces, red tie, suit. Sometimes I'll change the suit trousers to jeans depending on the crowd, smart black jeans, but that tends to be the look. I don't want people to look at me and there's no right or wrong, really. I don't like to be in a situation where everybody can look at me and go, oh, that's obviously the magician guy over there. I like to blend in with the crowd so that when I walk over, they don't really know what I'm there for, because it allows me to kind of have one step into the conversation. It allows me to explain who I am. And also I don't think I'd feel comfortable wearing that sort of outfit. That's not me. I've seen pictures and videos of Simon performing close-up magic, who now looks like he's dead. Are you dead? No, you're not dead. Good. And you rock that red, and that red looks really cool. And I know that's completely on brand to your company name, so that absolutely makes sense. And I know other performers that do exactly the same thing. Me, I tend not to like to do that. I tend to kind of blend in a way, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and the blackish or dark colors are for black art stuff, for levitation stuff, for contrast with cards or silver dollars. So
Yeah, I just like black.
yeah.
It's not really I just like black. I've always liked black.
Red is the new black.
I just like black. I don't know. It's not really about the black art thing or anything like that. It's just I like black. Black is cool. In fact, so in my company, Nonstop Kids Entertainment, all the entertainers wear different T-shirts, and they're all really brightly colourful T-shirts with the logo on them, the Nonstop Kids logo on them. We kind of patterned that off Holiday Park. So, we've got loads of different colours. There's pinks, there's blues, there's purples, there's oranges, there's reds, and they're all really hyper colourful. I'm the only entertainer in Nonstop Kids Entertainment with a black T-shirt. I had to buy it myself, but I wanted a black T-shirt. So yeah,
but there are videos with the bluish Non-Stop Kids Entertainment.
Only because the black ones are in the wash. That's the main reason.
Great excuse. Thanks for answering the question.
I mean, Andreas, if it helps, I wear pretty colorful suit jackets, but I wear those out on regular nights as well. So yeah. I show up as I would dress anywhere. They're blue, they're pink. But that's what I wear normally. So I'm not wearing anything that I would not normally wear. And I've never felt like I stood out as anything other than, than me. I still have to walk up and still have to explain why I'm there and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is, and I'll use slightly unusual as an example because there's a good eclectic range here. The other example is, you want to kind of think about what your character is as well, because how you dress kind of fits into your character. So if I just share my screen for a minute and you just look at Slightly Unusual's website, where we've got our roster of magicians. Well, I mean, there's me dressed in black. That's kind of my style. You look at Nemid, and Nemid's kind of got that cool kind of look to him. You know what I mean? That kind of fits with what he's doing. A perfect example. Look, so many people wearing suits. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Lots of people wearing. And then you look at somebody like Matt, and he's kind of got that whole. You look at him and you think he's a mentalist. You just look at him and you think, right, okay, this is kind of a mentalist. That's kind of what he does. Another perfect example is if we go down. Where is it? Is he in here somewhere? Yeah, so my friend Tom Chester Styles, he's got he's a storyteller. He does a lot of dark style stuff, like pulling needles through fingers and stuff and that sort of thing. And you can get that look for him from his picture, you know what I mean? And you look at, there he is. Yeah, little protege himself. You look. So sometimes I think you have to look at the artists and kind of say to yourself, what's your style, because that'll dictate what you wear as well. Like you look at Tom Crosby, he wears like sweater waistcoats and stuff because he goes out as the performing nerd. It's very, very popular as the performing nerd, and he wants to put across that nerd look. So he looks like he's just come off the, the show Big Bang Theory. So again, if you've got a particular character, having an outfit that you wear that fits that character is kind of important. So.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it's different whether you're planning to go on stage or doing close-up. Approaching groups in mix and mingles or so, right?
Oh, approaching groups. Yeah, I thought you were talking about dress. Not so much with dress, but yeah, definitely with approaching groups. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about the approach. So let's talk about a normal gig first of all. We'll talk about weird stuff. And remember, anybody who's got any questions, please ask, because or any advice or any anything that you can share from your own personal experience. But here's the thing, right? I said how important the approach is. It's that old expression, you've only got one chance to create a first impression. So the most important thing when you're doing close-up is that you come across as confident. So I've been to close-up jobs before, and I've seen magicians who have really struggled to approach a group and get them to want to see magic, because it's very easy to go up to a group and go, "Hi, do you want to see some magic?" And they go, "Well, no, not really." And a lot of the time that's down to a couple of things. And the first thing is your confidence and your aura as a performer. If you walk up to a group and you're not very confident or you look nervous, it's really opening the doors for them to say no. It's a little bit like stage performers picking people to come up on stage and help them. I've seen so many stage performers struggle with getting people to come up on stage, and it's just embarrassing because they're running around the venue going, "Will you help me? No. Will you help me? No. Will you help me?" And they're really struggling to get anybody to come on stage. You want to try and make sure that when you walk up to a group of people, you come across as really confident, kind of like, "Hey, if you go up there and you're like, 'Hi, my name's Craig. I'm the magician here tonight. Was just hoping that I could show you a quick card trick. Would that be okay?" Like, there's a very good chance that you're going to get a no to that, because you're coming across as somebody who's not very confident, that doesn't really know what they're doing. So the first thing that I can tell you is to be very, very confident, even if it's your first gig and you've never done this before, and you're walking up to your very first group at your very first gig at your very first time. You need to fake it. You need to fake that confidence. And it is something that you can practice. It's something you can practice at home, walking up to a random, imaginary group of people and practicing this. It is something that you need to practice. But the confidence that you have is really important. And then the other important thing is knowing ahead of time what you're going to say. Now, I've already talked on this channel many, many times, and I've talked in the Netrix many, many times about how I don't like script. I'm not a scripted performer, because I like to ad lib. I like to riff off the audience. And if the audience says something, I want to have the ability to go in a completely different direction. Having said that, my approach is completely scripted. Now, I say it's scripted. It is. I have 5 or 6 approaches, and I will pick the scripted approach that's best for the audience I'm going up to, depending on many different factors, like whether I'm doing walk around or I'm approaching a group of people at a table, whether they're sitting down or standing up, how many people are there, whether they're all female, all men, mixture of male and female, the age of the people that I'm going up to. Different things will change the script that I'm using depending on so many different factors. But it's really important to know what you're going to say ahead of time. Now, depending on their answers, I might go off tangent and just say something completely random and completely different. That tends to be the case an awful lot. However, the initial approach is going to be completely scripted, because again, it ties into the whole confidence thing. If I come across as I know what I'm going to say, as opposed to just winging it, I will come across as confident and then more likely to say yes. Does that make sense? Cool. The next thing is, when you're thinking about what to say, two things on this. Number one, you got to come across as likable and interesting. If you come across as boring, they're not going to want to speak to you. They're not going to want to have you there to perform. So you need to come across as interesting. I've said this before. I will say it again until I'm blue in the face. Read How to Win Friends and Influence People. For the love of God, read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it is the absolute best book on this subject. More magicians should read that book. They really should. But you need to come across as likable. You need to come across as friendly. And honestly, we talked about Matt earlier, and I think that's one of the reasons why Matt did so well with close-up magic right from the start, because he's very good at getting people to like him right from the first get-go. And that's half the battle. If you can get people to like you, it's like networking. If they know you, then they're going to want to listen to you, right? So if they feel like they like you, that's half the battle. So the first thing is, you walk up to people, you know what you're going to say, you go across as confident, and you come across as likable. But then when you're speaking, there's certain things that you want to drop in. So one of the things that I think is very important to drop in, bearing in mind most events that you go to, they won't know how this whole magic thing is going to work. Most people that you go and perform for, they've never seen magic live before. It's unlikely they've seen magic live before. Now, it can happen. They might have been to a wedding where they had a magician before. I'm not saying it will never happen, but it's unlikely. That most people I perform for, they've never seen magic before. So they don't know how this thing's going to work. And also it varies from magician to magician anyway. So if you walk up to a group of people and they're not going to know how long you're going to be there, they don't know if it's going to be 5 minutes or half an hour. So one of the things I like to try and drop in as quickly as possible is how long I'm going to be there. I want them to know this is going to be a quick thing, because people have other stuff to do when they're at an event like this. They want to chat to their friends. They want to grab a drink. They want to do anything. And they're fine to watch magic, but they don't want to be doing it. They don't want to be trapped in a magic show for half an hour. So one of the most important things to drop into the initial pitch, as far as I'm concerned, is telling them that it's not going to be that long and it's going to be a quick performance. The other thing that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to put across the type of performer you are within the first few seconds. So I am a comedy magician. For me, the comedy is more important than the magic. I would rather walk away from a group and have them go, well, that was entertaining. He was funny. Than, oh, that was magical. Now, best case scenario, I've got a bit of both, but I'd rather have them entertained. So because of that, I want to put across that at the beginning. I want to come across as somebody who's bantering with them, somebody who's a little bit funny, somebody, I want to try and interact. If there's 4 people in the group I'm going up to, I want to try and interact with every single one of them, or at least get eye contact with every single one of them. And that's another important point. You've got to get eye contact with every single person in that group when you go up to them. So when you go over to that group of people and you're going to be giving them your initial pitch, you want to have eye contact with all of them, look them in the eyes individually, one at a time. And then you want to kind of get on with it very, very quickly. I've seen magicians that will chat to the group or the spectators in the group for like 5 or 6 minutes, and look, right time, right place, that's fine. But a lot of the places I work, like there were 150 people tonight, and I was there for 2 hours. I needed to hustle. I didn't have time to have long and deep and meaningful conversations about who they were. And also, a lot of the time, people don't want that. They don't want that deep and meaningful conversation. They're just like, right, okay, get on with it. So an example of a script, an example of a pitch that I might use is I'd go up to people and I'd say, and we'll talk about how to get their attention in a second, because that's important as well. I'll circle back to that. But an example of a pitch I might use is, hey guys, sorry to bother you. I'm not as dodgy as I look. My name's Craig. I'm actually the magician here tonight. It's my job to come around and do magic for you guys. You look very excited about that, sir. Contain your enthusiasm if you can. So, yeah, would you guys like to see a quick trick? Can I show you? What's your name? John. Nice to meet you, John. How you doing? I'm Craig. Can you do me a favor, John? And boom, I'm into it. John is now helping me with the trick. Now, that's one example. Another, and very quickly to break that down, walking up to people and saying, hey, I'm not as dodgy as I look, works for me. I'm 6'3". I have a shaved head. I'm generally stubbled up. I've got tattoos down my arms, and I'm a big guy. I'm going to be like half of the time, and I'm in a suit. Half of the time, people like think I'm the bouncer. So like me turning up to people and going, hey, my name's Craig. I'm not as dodgy as I look. It instantly gets people to laugh. Because the second I walk up to them and I grab their attention, I know what most of those people are thinking. They're thinking, what the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is he? And what the fuck is he doing over here? And what's he trying to say? What? So me turning around and going, I'm not as dodgy as I look, it immediately gets people to laugh, because That's exactly what they were thinking. And it's almost like I've tapped into their thoughts. Hey there, I'm not as dodgy as I look. My name's Craig. I'm the magician. It's my job to do magic. And that is kind of a really important thing to say. My name's Craig. I'm the magician. It's my job to do magic. I want them to understand that this is a job and I'm being paid to be there. I haven't just walked in off the street. I'm not like trying to get social media content for a channel or something like that. I'm being paid to be there by the venue, by the client. In fact, a lot of the time, if I'm at a wedding or a corporate, I will drop that in. So I go, hey, my name's Craig. I'm the magician here today. I've been asked by Bob and Tracy to come around and do magic for all you guys. They've hired me to come around and do magic. Or, hey, my name's Craig. I'm the magician here today. Like XYZ company have asked me to come around and do magic for everybody. The reason that's important is because then it's very difficult for them to say no to me, because they've just been told that the person that's invited them to this event that they have gone to has paid me to come over and do magic for them. Now that it's in a very difficult situation for them, it's difficult for them to go, well, fuck off. We're not interested, because I've just told them I'm being paid to be here by the people that have invited you to be here. So, that's a nice thing to do. But yeah, hey, my name's Craig, not as dodgy as I look. I'm here to do magic for everybody. And then typically I'll get eye contact with one person in the group. And I'm looking around at everybody as I'm saying that. And then I'll get eye contact with one person in the group. And I'll turn around to that one person and I'll just go, oh, you look very excited about this. So I'll normally pick the person who looks less excited, looks kind of like they don't really want to be there. And I'll go, hey, you look very excited about this. And I'll do it. How I deliver that line is very important. I don't deliver it in a vicious way. I deliver it in a very kind of, yeah, you look very excited about this, sir. It's meant to be delivered in a way that kind of showcases my personality. And again, that's important to me, that they realize that I'm just going to be bantering with them the entire time that I'm there. Hey, you look very excited about this, sir. And then, if your expectations are at a 10, drop them to a 7, then we're kind of going to be on the same wavelength. All of this stuff is designed to just get people to laugh, and they're not going to be laughing out loud, but they hopefully will see that I'm not taking myself too seriously. I'm just taking the piss out of myself. I'm taking the piss out of them, and I'm just here for a laugh. And then I finish it by saying, by the way, what's your name, sir? I don't then ask, can I do some magic? I don't ask permission. I don't say, would you like to see some magic? Can I show you a magic trick? That is something I never do. That is a death knell. It really is. Because if you say that, you're giving them a reason to say no. Can I show you a magic trick? No, fuck off. So instead, I'm like, hey, it's in sales. Don't forget, my background is sales. So I've done sales my entire life. My background in sales, the most important thing when you're selling is the close, what you say to get people to put pen to paper. And my favorite type of close when I'm selling is something called an assumptive close. The assumptive close basically means you are assuming that they're going to buy without just going through the motions. And that whole concept of closing and assuming the sale is how I kind of take that approach. I go, hey, John, what's your name, John? Nice to meet you, John. I'm Craig. John, I need you to help with this. Can you have a look at this for me? Or can you hold your hand out, John? I just want you to, I'm going to put this into your hand. We're going to get back to that in a minute. That's by the time I've done that, I'm into the magic trick. I'm already into the routine. There's something in John's hand, and I've just assumed they want to see it. And I've never had anyone turn around at that point and go, no. Now, that approach works absolutely fine. But as I say, I've got different approaches. I'm sure you guys have seen in one of my projects somewhere me going, hey, is this the fun group? Is this I've heard this is the fun table. That's one I love using all of the time. I walk up to a table and I go, hey, I heard this is the fun group. Is that right? And they'll typically go, yeah, or they'll go, no. And if they go, yeah, I go, oh, thank God. I'm glad I found you. I've been looking all night. My name's Craig. I'm the magician here today. I'm here to show some magic to you guys. I'm glad you want to have fun because we're going to have some fun. You, sir, can you do me a favor and pick a card? and again, I'm into it. And if they say, no, I'm not, we're not the fun group, I go, oh, come on, don't say yourself. Sure, I've heard that you're a lot of fun. Let me try something. Let me see if we can get you a little bit more excited. So it's about playing off their reactions and playing off what they say. But at the same time, also, sorry, I've got thoughts coming into my head, and I just want to say them as they come into my head. And my first thought is I love my wife because she's made me a coffee. Thank you, baby. And she spilt it and yet has gone and got a tissue to clean it up. Thanks, babe. Okay, Shane, no problem. See you in a bit. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so thoughts coming into my head, and as they come into my head, I'll tell you them. Another important thing is tone of voice. Now, anybody who's in sales will tell you that tonality and vocal projection is important. Anyone who performs on stage will tell you the vocal projection and tonality is really important. It is so important for the approach when you're doing close-up magic. If you walk up to a group of people and you go, "Hi, my name's Craig. I'm the magician." It's no good. You hear me when I do approach. Hey there, guys. I'm not as dodgy as I look. My name's Craig. I'm the magician here today. You look very excited about this, sir. I'm here to do some magic for you. Boom. You can hear I'm going up and down. The tonality is very, very important. The tonality. Also notice, I gesture an awful lot. This is another thing that I got from sales, that that I've been doing for years, which is getting people on a yes roll. And if you ever see me lecture live, you'll see me doing this an awful lot in a lecture environment, in order to engage an audience. It's kind of like, "Hey guys, I'm not as dodgy as I look. My name's Craig. How you doing? You okay?" It just kind of having a lot of overly body language. It's really important. It really is, believe it or not. Trust me, it really is. But vocal projection, body language, body language especially, if you're kind of looking down at your shoes, if you're shuffling around, if you're not again, it comes back to being confident. It's the same thing that I would say to somebody who's performing on stage. You want to come across as confident on stage, you plant your feet. This is a conversation I had recently with Thomas Maloney. Thomas Maloney had me go to one of his shows and watch his show and give him notes afterwards. And one of the notes I gave him is that he was shuffling around all the time. He looked nervous because he was pacing back and forth. And a lot of people do that, especially when they're on stage for the first time or new to performing on stage, and they're nervous. They'll pace back and forwards and they will shuffle around on stage. And it's the same thing. If you're shuffling around and you're not planting your feet and you're looking down at the floor and you're not maintaining eye contact with the audience, then what's going to happen is you're just gonna, that people aren't going to have any interest in seeing you. The other important thing that has just come into my head that's worth talking about as well is before you even walk up to the group, you need to know, like, what am I trying to say here? I went to a gig recently and there was a magician there. An agent had booked 2 magicians, me and one other. And I'd never seen this magician before. And he was actually a really good magician, very, very skilled, very good magician, really good tricks, nice guy. Not going to say his name because his approach was terrible, despite him being a really good magician. And one of the reasons his approach was terrible is because he was in the room there were like 100 people there, and it was me and him for an hour and a half. And we were in this room, and I was kind of watching him. I was doing my own thing while I was watching him as well. And he was doing this thing, and I'm sure you've seen magicians do this, where they're shuffling around the room looking for a group to go up to. And it's kind of like they're kind of psyching themselves up to go up to a group. And they're looking for the best group to go up to. And they're psyching themselves up. And everyone's having conversations, but they're kind of walking around. and then they kind of see a group that they think, okay, this looks like a good group, and they start to walk over to them, and then they stop and veer off at the last second because they think, no, maybe that's not the best group to go up to. They look like the, and I've seen magicians for like 5 or 6 minutes just constantly trying to go up to groups and not able to, and it's like a fly buzzing around, not actually able to make it into, it just looks kind of really shit. So what you need to do is you need to pick a group. Now, different magicians sometimes you got to get around as many people as possible. I don't care who I perform for. I couldn't give two shits. But certain magicians have. Nemid Phoenix, for example, he will always gravitate to groups of women and girls because he I don't know, he's funnier. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. Ask Nemed, but well, actually, I think I know what the reason is. I'm not going to go into it here, but I think I know what the reason is. But he would rather perform for groups of women. So he will naturally gravitate to those. But once he's found his group, he will just go straight in. And that's really important. Don't walk up and kind of psych yourself up and when you walk over to the group, even if they're having a conversation with each other, you have to interrupt. Because I've seen magicians walk over to a group of people and just stand there waiting for their conversation to end. And it then just becomes a little creepy. It's kind of just a little bit like you're eavesdropping in on their conversation. It's like, what the fuck's going on? It's kind of, you've committed yourself, but now you're in an awkward situation where you're waiting for them to finish talking. They don't know you're waiting for them to finish talking, so they continue having a conversation, and they're just wondering why there's a bloke standing next to them listening to their conversation. And it gets really awkward to the point that eventually they'll look over to you and you go, oh, hi. And it's just shit. So if you see the group, you have to walk in, you have to be committed. And the way I do that, now let's say sometimes you'll walk up to a big group of people and there'll be like 7 or 8 people there and they're having like 3 or 4 individual conversations. So in that case, you kind of want to walk up to them and I'll be like, hey, how you doing? Hi, my name's Craig. Hello, how are you? Hi. And I'll literally grab each individual. I'll speak to them directly. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Good. As soon as they look at me, hey, how are you doing? Now I'm on to the next one. I'll say hi like 10 times. And then when I've got all their attention, I'll be like, my name's Craig. I'm the magician. How's it going? You okay? I've been asked to come around. And the other thing is you'll get a vibe when you go over to groups as well. You'll get a vibe as to whether they are receptive or not receptive. And if they're not receptive, one, I'll do a shorter performance. But two, if they're not receptive, I can kind of more lean into the client has told me to be here, blah, 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 blah. And you won't know that until you start going up to people on a regular basis. So when you start going up to people on a regular basis, you'll know that. There's lots of different types of groups that you're going to go up to. But before I go any further, I've just spent the last like 40 minutes talking. Has anybody got any questions? Does this all make sense? If you've got any questions, put your hand in the air, wave it around. Hey, Chris.
You said you had a gig earlier of 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there for what, 90 minutes or 2 hours?
2 hours tonight. And I was there with somebody else. I was there with a guy called Sam Hurst, who's in Slightly Unusual. So it was me and Sam tonight.
So how much of that crowd in your time there do you think you hit? And do you have like a percentage goal? Or I know it's always 100, but that realistically speaking,
Okay.
What do you judge as a successful night if you were solo versus somebody else?
So when I'm solo, it's easy. That's a great question. It's easier to keep track of this if you're doing table magic. Because if you're doing table magic, you've normally, let's say it's a banquet dinner and they've got tables of like 8 or 10. I know when I walk into that room, okay, there's 9 tables here. I have to do 9 tables in 2 hours. So if I spend 10 minutes on each table, that's going to be 90 minutes. That gives me time to leave one table and go up to the next table and gives me a bit of extra time on the head table. That's great. 90 minutes, that works. So I'm there for 2 hours. I can get if there's like 15 tables, I'm going to cut it to like 5 minutes if I'm going to get round everyone. And my goal is to get round everybody. So when you've got table magic, I adjust the length of the performance to the amount of time that we have. So me and Tom and Thea were at a military base last weekend, and we were doing a full illusion show. But before the no, it wasn't a military base. It was a corporate. It was a corporate. That's it. It was a corporate. But we were we were doing an illusion show. That was the day. I remember it now. That was the day that we had Thea in the box for 2.5 hours hiding with her Switch and a bag of snacks. And we had, because they were having a buffet, we literally had an hour. And the client said, "You are going to get around everybody, aren't you?" And we were like, "Yeah, no problem." And I said to Tom, "There's me and there's you. There's 20 tables. We've got 10 tables to do in an hour each. So you got like 4 or 5 minutes. Don't mess about. In, out. Cut your intro right down." And what I did in that situation then is I did an announcement to the room. I was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Craig. This is my colleague Tom. We're going to be spending the next hour coming over to your table. When we come over, I'm not as dodgy as I look. Tom is. I'm not. But we're here to do magic for you guys. Okay? See you in a few minutes." And I kind of did a little thing like that to everybody. And the reason I did that is because I said to Tom, that's going to cut the intro down, because now they know who we are. So now we can just go straight in and start performing, because we're only going to have 5 minutes per table. So, and my intro at those, they already knew who we were. I didn't have to do a particular approach there, because they already knew who we were. So I just went in and I was like, "Hey guys, I've got to get around every table. I've only got time for one trick, but it's going to be a really good one. It's going to be the best card trick I know. Would you guys like to see the best card trick that I know?" "You would." "Brilliant. Okay, let's do this." And it was kind of almost having a sense of urgency. So when you've got tables, it's a lot easier to gauge how long you need to spend on each table in order to hit everybody. When you're doing walk around magic, it is almost impossible. And the reason it's almost impossible is because they're in groups, but the groups split up. So I can't like keep track of, right, I've done that group over there. Now I'm going to do that group. Now I'm going to do that group. Now I'm going to do that group, because that group's going to disappear. And one person from that group's going to go over there. One person's going to go over there. 2 people are going to go over there. And so when I'm doing walk around magic, my goal is to just hustle. My goal is to just do as much magic as I can. And my introduction a lot of the time is, "Hey," because I can't remember if I've done magic for them or not. I can't remember if I've been to what. I just can't remember. So I'll walk over to them and my introduction is, "Hey, my name's Craig. I'm the magician. Have any of you guys seen magic tonight?" And if the answer is no, I'm like, "Oh, brilliant. Right. Okay. I'm here to do magic for you. Isn't that exciting?" Woo! And that's kind of my intro. And if they say yes, I'm like, "Oh, brilliant. Who's done the magic?" "You." "Okay. Luckily, I have more than one trick, so we're going to be good. What did you see?" And he'll go, "Oh, you did a trick with a hole in a key. Great, brilliant. Let's put that one to one side. Let's do something else." So, and I will actually ask him what the trick is, so I can make sure I don't do that trick. But with mix and mingle, it's impossible to keep track of individuals.
Yeah.
So I just want to hustle and try and get around as many people as I can, and hope that I've hit most of the audience.
Makes sense. All right, cool. Thank you.
And when I'm performing, I always have a sense of urgency. I know in restaurants, that's not the case, because in restaurants, you can kind of take your time a little bit. But in when I'm booked to perform at any type of gig, I've got a sense of urgency. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Right. Okay. Next one, next one, next one, next one, next one. That's the goal there.
You also answered my other question is, if you only had 5 minutes, do you do one killer or do you just do 2 bangers and call it a day?
I do one killer. I do one
quality.
Mm-hmm. And it depends,
because they're going to see a second one from Tom if all goes well. So
they might see. Yeah, because the other thing, that's the other thing. If you're working on a multi-man gig and you're doing walk around, sometimes I'll say, "Have you seen any magic tonight?" And if they go, "Yeah, I've seen Tom, or I've seen Matt, and I've seen Nemit," I go, "Oh, brilliant! You've seen the warm-up act. Great. Welcome to the main event." and again, that ties into my character. It ties into me. They'll laugh and they'll go, "Are you better than him?" I was like, I taught him how to do magic. Watch this. And you know, and it's kind of that faux egotistical thing that I kind of have. But yeah, you want to find out if they've seen. And the other thing is find out what tricks Tom's doing or Nemin's doing, the person you're with, which is an issue for. It's not an issue for me because I've got a pretty big repertoire. But I've seen magicians at the past and have turned up and then been like, well, we're both going to do ambitious card and we're both going to do sponge balls. So, you know, whatever the case may be. So I typically will say, I'm a dream to work with if you're another magician, because I'll just say, what are you doing? And I just won't do any of that. And I'll just do something else because I've got a pretty big repertoire of magic. So, but find out what the other person is doing. That's important as well.
Cool.
Right, we have multiple questions. Scottish Dave put his hand up first. Then we've got one in the chat from Rick, and then Simon's put his hand up as well. So let me start with Dave. Dave, what you got?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you have like a time limit of how long you perform for each group?
Yeah, but it very much depends on the amount of people that I've got at the event. So if I'm doing, so I've got a gig in a couple of days' time where I'm there for 2 hours, but there's 40 people. I'm going to if I hustle too much, I'm going to get around those 40 people very, very quickly. So I'm going to take my time. I'm probably going to spend 10 or 15 minutes a group. If I'm in a situation like I was tonight, there's 150 people. More people are arriving all of the time. Yes, there's 2 of us, but there's still 150 people there. I'm probably aiming to do 2, at the absolute most 3 tricks. I don't really want to go over 5 to 7 minutes, and I'm going to keep it really quick. So I'll always do a quick opener. And then I'll go into something a little bit longer, but still fairly quick. And then I'll go into a longer sort of closing routine. And as I said earlier on, Tech Deck was my, you know, I did Tech Deck a lot tonight because it was quite a dark environment and the lights really pop when you're in a dark environment with Tech Deck. But yeah, you set the environment a lot of the time. Sorry, you set the time limit based on the amount of people that you've got there, because you want to make the most important thing is you want the client to be happy. So, you know, I don't want to be in a situation where the client's getting told afterwards, we never saw the magician, we never saw the magician, we never saw the magician. So I want to try and aim to get around everybody. And the other thing that I'll do in a walk around gig an awful lot of the time, or even a stage, or even a tables gig, I'll do one trick at the end to everybody. So at the end, I'll do one trick to everyone. And I'll say to the client when I get there, I'll say, would you like me to finish off by doing one trick to everybody at the end of the night? And they always go, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Mark Elsden was a genius at this. So Mark Elsden had this amazing thing where at the start of a gig, he would bring out a real Rubik's Cube. And he would hand it out to a table and he'd say, my name's Mark, I'm the magician. I'm going to walk around and do magic all night tonight. However, I've got this Rubik's Cube. Throughout the night, I'd like you to pass it from table to table and mix it up as much as you want to. Before I leave tonight, I'm going to show you something amazing. And then before he left, he grabbed everyone's attention and he was like, hey, thank you very much for watching me perform. I hope you enjoyed it. Who's got the Rubik's Cube? Can you bring it up? And he would do a blindfold cube solve of that cube that they've just spent the last 2 hours solving. And all he had is in his pocket, he had a direct vision blindfold and he can solve a cube. So it was a really interesting way of actually bringing everything full circle. I'm completely going off track now, though. That's got nothing to do with how long you'd spend at each group. Base it on the amount of people that are there and adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And the tricks that you're doing, are you kind of repeating them over to when you move from one group to the next group, just repeating the kind of same tricks again?
No, again, I've got a big repertoire. So, I mean, tonight was a perfect example. So what did I have tonight? I had 2 decks of cards, one set up in Mem deck, one set up in one regular deck with magic buttons set up in it. I had $4 Sorry, I had $4 silver, a shell and flipper. I had Game Changer. I had Big Blind. I had Tech Deck. I had Spooning Around. I had some T-Forks and from Henry Harris. I had a cube. I had Grandma's Miracle. I had Ape. I had a packet trick off Magic Button. I had the new Greg Wilson 3 credit card Monty thing. Mastercon. And that's about it. So I was varying up the stuff I was doing quite a lot.
You just carry that all on you at the same time.
Yeah, like I've got I've got 2 front trouser pockets, 2 back trouser pockets, 2 outside jacket pockets, 2 inside jacket pockets, 1 shirt top pocket, 1 jacket top pocket. So I've really got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sort of 11 pockets. So as long as I know my pocket management, I know where everything is, I'll be fine.
Yep, cool.
That help?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Sick. Rick says, this might be off topic, but when doing the tables, do you try to go 3 or 4 tables before repeating a trick, or do you stay away from the tricks that may only have one outcome? Again, it's a great question, Rick. I have I tend to vary it up a lot. I do repeat stuff, like as I say, tech deck I did quite a few times tonight. But you're right, it won't be repeated on the next group. It'll be repeated like maybe 3 or 4 groups along. So yeah, I try to vary stuff up as much as possible. In terms of routines with with only one outcome, I don't have many routines like that in my repertoire. I do have some, but I don't have many routines like that in my repertoire, so it's not really too much of an issue. But yeah, in terms of the answer to the question, I try to do as an eclectic range of material as possible, because one of my pitches to the client when I'm booking these gigs in, one of the things I say as part of the pitch is that I'm going to adapt the magic, or my team will adapt the magic to the group of people that they go up to. So if we went up to a group of people and they went, "Oh, I'm really into Dynamo," we do the sort of magic that you'd see Dynamo do, like really hyper visual style of magic. If we went up to a group of people and they go, "Oh, I'm really into Darren Brown," we're going to do mind reading and metal bending and that sort of thing. So everyone's going to get a different tailored experience based on what they like. Now, it sounds really good to a client, and it's very, very easy to do. In reality, nobody really goes, "Well, I want to see Darren Brown shit off you." Nobody ever says that, but it's a cool thing to say to the client. But when I'm speaking to them and I'm talking to a group, I can get a vibe as to the type of magic they like, especially if they go, "Oh, I love magicians," or whatever the case may be. So, as part of the pitch, we're going to be varying stuff up quite a lot as well. So I try to keep things as different as possible. And one thing that I would suggest you do is, when you do close up, if you're booked to do, like, let's say, mix and mingle during a drinks reception and then table magic during dinner, which happens quite a lot with me. I'll be doing mix and mingle during drinks reception, then there'll be a 10-minute layback, and then I'll be doing table magic of like 8 to 10 people at a table. I have completely different magic I do for each environment. So while they're going into the room and sitting on their tables, I'm completely changing over the stuff that's in my pocket. And I'm going to be taking out Game Changer, for example, and I'm going to be putting Chop Cup or Chop in my pocket. So I'm going to be changing it up based on the environment I've got in front of me. And that's the other thing. You pick the routines based on so many different factors. You pick them based on the type of environment you're performing in, the type of people that you're performing for. All of these different factors vary up. There's not one trick for one environment. Different tricks work better for different environments. Anything to do with Chop Cup, anything to do with Chop or something like that, that's better when you've got a big group of people. Can it be done in a mix and mingle situation? Yeah, but there's a million other tricks that can. You may as well stick to those tricks. Understand I think it's really important for a magician to understand the tricks that they're doing, where they're most appropriate to be performed, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So next question.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
a lot of the tricks have to be instant reset as well.
yeah. Although it doesn't have to be an exact instant reset. Instant reset is good. However, if you can, there's 3 types of reset that I'm comfortable with. Instant reset is perfect, obviously. Reset where I can reset the trick in front of a spectator, openly resets in front of a spectator. I'm cool with that. So I've finished the trick, I can reset it as I'm talking to them. So the case in point with that is mem deck. I love mem deck routines. I carry a mem deck around with me a lot. I was doing mem deck magic all night tonight. And you know, sometimes at the end of a mem deck routine, you'll have 1 or 2 cards out of order because you've just finished a routine, and I'll just openly just put them back into order. They don't know it's a mixed up deck. I've done a full shuffle or 2, so you know, that's something that I can live with. The other type of reset that I'm happy with is a reset that happens while I've walked away from the table and I'm walking over to another table, or I'm looking at what table to go to next. So what I don't want to do is going to the toilet and taking all the stuff out of my pockets and doing a really long reset. Because, you know, I was working with a guy once at a gig, and again, it was somebody I'd never met. And the client came up to me at the end and said, "Oh, you're amazing. I'm just a bit concerned about the other magician. Does he have like a stomach bug? Has he got diarrhea or something?" Because this guy was running into the toilet after every table to go and reset his pockets, and it just looked to the client like he had the shits. So, you know, what you want to try and do is, if you have to reset something, make it so that you can reset it while you're looking for the next table to go to. So a trick that I did tonight that is a reset like that is Big Blind, which is one of my favorite tricks in the world to do. It's going to take about 15 to 20 seconds to reset that. Now, I don't have to run away to a toilet. I can do it openly in front of an audience and they're not going to see anything. It just looks like I'm putting poker chips back into a little purse, but there is a reset. I can live with that. Everything doesn't have to be a complete and total instant reset, as long as I can reset it quick enough that it's not going to impact you know, where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do, because I'm building the time to reset into the time that I need in order to perform for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And having a plan of action, by the way, especially on big tables. So if you're performing table magic, having a plan of action and knowing what table you're going to next. All right, I'm going to go to this table, then I'm going to go to this table, then I'm going to go to this table, really helps, because then you're not just wandering around aimlessly like a lost fish. Instead, you're kind of knowing you're walking with purpose to that next table, which again is really important. Yeah.
With regards to that, Craig, I think it's also important to find out who the top tables are and where the important people are, especially with corporate.
Yeah. There's certain tables. Yeah. You want to make sure that you know where the VIPs are. Obviously, with a wedding, it's very easy where the head table is. But also, like, if you're doing a stage show afterwards and you've got like 30 tables, it's a big corporate. You've got 30 tables and you've got to do a stage show afterwards. I always focus on the tables. I always focus the close-up magic on the tables that are nearer the front of the stage, because I want to establish credibility during that close-up period so that people like pay attention when I'm doing the show. And if I haven't got time to get around every table, and sometimes you just haven't. I did a gig once where there were 700 people and I was there for an hour and 15 minutes. It was effectively having a magician there was a box ticking exercise, and that's going to happen sometimes. I was basic having a magician. I could have fucked off I could have gone somewhere for an hour and 15 minutes, come back and said bye to the clients, and they would have gone, "Oh, that was amazing," because they didn't even know I was there. They had no clue. It was effectively a fart in a wind tunnel. It really was. And I've done so many fart in a wind tunnel gigs, you know, and if I haven't got time to get around everybody, yeah, VIPs are important. But also, if you're doing a stage show later on, it's worth noting try to get the tables that are nearer the stage, because that's going to build up the atmosphere for the show later on. But Simon, you're next. You're next with your hand up. What question have you got?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you cope with interruptions? So, for example, doing reception magic, walk around magic, you're right in the middle of your card routine or coin routine, and someone comes up, "Oh, Sandra, how are you?" Oh, all that.
Right.
I haven't seen you for 2 years and all this things. And likewise, if you're um you got people coming up with canapes right in the middle when you're getting them to hold cards and all sorts. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
when you're at the table, you've got the dinner service coming in, or the buffet opens, or they
Okay.
start the speeches.
Right. Okay. Several points on that. First of all, mix and mingle. You have to understand that you are not that important in the grander scheme of things. That's the thing that you need to understand. Like, magicians walk in with so much self-importance sometimes. Like, my name is David Pett. Oh, did I say it out loud? My name is whatever the name may be. I am. No, I love Dave. I'm joking, but my name is blah 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 blah. I am the most important person here. I am the magician. You need to understand that there's a million other things that are as important. And from the venue's point of view, and I want to try and get into the venue's good graces because they might book me for something else. From the venue's point of view, the most important thing is they get their food out, they get their canapes out, they get their drinks out. So, I always take precedence. I always make sure that anything that happens that's interruptions that have been caused by the venue, I make sure that they get what they need. So in mix and mingle, it's canapes. If people are coming around with canapes, they're literally just trying to get people to get the canapes. What the staff that are carrying them around, they're not trained. They'll see a group of people. They're not trained to interrupt. They're just trained to carry trays. So they'll see a group of people and they'll be there holding the tray, just waiting. And they'll be waiting a long fucking time because I'll be there performing. So what I do is as soon as somebody comes over with canapes, I go, "Oh, hey, we've got canapes over here. Who would like a canape? You. Come and grab a canape. I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thanks for asking. Right, off you go. See you later." But in a really kind of professional, nice way. I don't shoo them off like that. But I want to hurry that whole process along. I don't want to have that person waiting there. So I'm comfortable with interrupting my trick in order to get that process done with as quickly as possible, if that kind of makes sense. In mix and mingle, I only have one person whose hands I'm using. I will have them hand their drink to somebody else, and that person is the only person holding whatever prop it is that I'm doing. Or I don't even need a person. I'll be doing it just using my own hands. So the fact that they're holding drinks and canapes are coming over isn't really an issue to me at all either. If somebody's coming over in mix and mingle and it's somebody who they haven't seen for a long time, like, "Oh, Doris, haven't seen you in 2 years," I go, I will incorporate them into the show. So if somebody comes over and goes, "Oh, I haven't seen you in 2 years," I go, "What's your name?" David, nice to meet you. I'm Craig, I'm the magician. I'm just in the middle of showing Doris a trick. It's very exciting because we just said we needed another person to help with this trick. And that's you, David. You are going to be my glamorous assistant. Everyone give David a big, massive round of applause. David, you the man. Thank you for coming over at this exact point. Now I've brought him into the performance. Now he has become part of my show. So rather than him interrupting what I am doing, he is now a part of the performance. And because I've made him a key integral part of the show, he's not going anywhere. It's a little bit like the same philosophy they use when they're building up a crowd, when they're performing in streets and busking and so on and so forth. In terms of being interrupted when you're doing table magic, you will always, my biggest piece of advice is do your research before people sit down. Speak to the venue. There will be a manager for that venue there. That will speak to the person that's in charge of service and say, "Hey, My name's Craig. I'm the magician. I do not want to interrupt you. Can you tell me the order of service? There's 10 tables here. Which tables are hit first? Which tables are going to be hit last? And how long will it take from the first table that's getting the food put down before the last one gets put down? And they'll say, we're going to start over there. Within 10 minutes, we'll have the food down on there. Brilliant. No problem. So now I'm going to save that table that gets done last until I see that first table come out. So I'll probably start on that first table, then I'll move on to the next table. If I'm on that next table and I see the food's being brought out onto the first table, I'm going to cut the trick short. I'm going whatever trick I'm in the middle of. No, excuse me, whatever trick I'm in the middle of, I'm going to like bring it to a natural conclusion, because I know after about a minute they're going to be coming over to this table, and then I'm going to go straight over to that table over there that I know we're going to be about 10 minutes away from, and I'm going to perform for that table. By the time that table's done, the tables at the start should be close to being finished, so I can take a step back for a minute. As soon as I see table number 3 has finished eating, or 3 or 4 people have finished eating, and they're the ones that I can use to help with the trick, I'm going to go into table number 3, keeping an eye on the service that's coming back for the mains, so that when I see the mains come out, I'm going to head over to table number 9, because that's going to be as far away from the start of service as it can be. And it's having that. I rarely get interrupted by people bringing food down, because I've done my research and I know where the food is coming out, when it's coming out. And the other thing is, I make a big deal of speaking to the wait staff. And so I'll speak to them and I'll say, hey, I'm the magician. I promise you I'm not going to get in your way. If the food is being brought down, I'm in the middle of something I can't wind up, like, for example, a multiple selection, and I'm on card 3 of 7, for example. I'll take a step back. If I see that the food is starting to come down, I'll be like, guys, I'm going to take a step back. Hold this for 1 second, because frankly, the vanishing turkey trick is better than anything I can do. So let's get this turkey down so that you guys can do that trick. I'm going to be impressed with that. So I'll get the turkey down. I'll go, guys, before you start eating, can I quickly finish this trick? We've got 3 cards down. We've got 5 to go. I'm going to go through this at the speed of a wounded ferret. Let's do it. Your card. Boom. And I'll take a step back, because what I don't want to try and do is carry on performing while the soup of the minestrone soup is being put in Doris's, thing in front of her. I would rather take a step back, let the wait staff do their thing, and then I will carry on performing for them, and I'll wrap up the trick that I'm performing, because that way the venue are going to thank me for it. I'm going to look better to the venue. It's going to make it easier for me to perform for the table as well. And on that subject, when you're picking your material, when you're performing for big tables, I think it's very important that you have stuff that's lots of multi-phases, have lots of phases, because then if I have to wind that trick up, let's say I'm doing a 37 phase ambitious card routine and the food comes down after phase 10. Well, they don't care. They've seen 10 tricks from their point of view. They've already seen an amazing trick. It's probably, let's be honest, it's probably saving fucking grace if I end up stopping doing the other 17 phases. They've probably seen that card come to the top so many times they couldn't give a shit about having it come to the top anymore. So it means that I can focus on, I can focus on other stuff. So if I do have to cut things short, it's totally not an issue. Does that make sense? That's kind of a long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah, Craig, if I follow on from his question, maybe from a different perspective. So last couple of gigs I did got interrupted by, say, an announcement. I was doing walk around. It got interrupted by an announcement, say, from the head person saying, hey, happy Christmas, everyone. It doesn't matter what they were saying. I used that time period to load stuff, to sort of like set up an extra effect. But I was a tiny bit worried that when the people came back to my attention, and they all did, that they would feel I did some funny business while they weren't paying attention. How do you sort of restart the trick when you have that, so that they feel that it's been ultra fair?
Great question. The only time I ever stop a trick and then restart it afterwards is if somebody's having a speech and they've started their speech in the middle of a routine.
And that's what happened to me. It was like I didn't see it coming. He suddenly stood up.
Yeah.
Boom! He's on the
Yeah.
microphone, and I'm there.
The one thing I'll say is you can stop that from you can stop that from happening an awful lot by speaking to like whoever's booked you, the client that's booked you. If you turn around and you say, right, have you got any speeches tonight? Is there anything that anybody's going to say? Yes. Dave is going to say a few words. Brilliant. Dave, can you do me a favor before you go up and say a few words? Could you let me know that you're going up and doing that? Just whisper in my ear as I'm performing, because that will allow me to finish up what I'm doing for the table I'm performing for.
Mm.
That will mitigate that an awful lot. Having said that, if that does happen, I take a step back. I say, you know, as the guy starts talking, I'll say, hey, I think we need to listen to this. I'm going to leave all of my props here and I'm going to walk away and I'm going to stand over there and I'll come back when you're done, when he's done. And if I'm in the middle of a card routine, I leave the cards there. If in the middle of a coin routine, I leave the coins there, because they're not going to think I've done anything suspicious if I've left all of my props there and I've walked away. Now, I'm actually close enough to the table so I can keep an eye on stuff to make sure people don't do anything funny. Not that they ever will, because they're listening to this person who's probably their boss or something. But it also is more respectful for the person as well that's talking. Because if I'm there holding a deck of cards, trying to do something or not look suspicious while he's having his little talk, that doesn't look great. But if I take a step back, if I walk away and I'm standing against a wall or something and I'm just watching him do his speech, it looks a little bit more respectful for him as well.
Mm.
So that then when I've finished, I can come back in and I can say, now, did anyone mess with that deck of cards? No. Right, what we were doing? Yes, magic button, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And I think I lucked out because I think in the case, the spectator had the cards in their hands. So they just held it through and I just sat there respectfully as you suggested. But I did have this like niggle in the back of my mind that they were going to think I did something funny. But walk around's a bit harder if there's no table, because I think that's a great idea. Lay your stuff down. In this environment, there was really no tables and only a wet bar space. And that's not the most ideal for laying stuff down.
No, if it's walk around, just leave it in their hands and just walk away. Yeah,
cool.
No problem, Shane. Great question, really good question. Andreas, it's you and then Chris Brown. What you got, my friend? Can't hear you, Andreas. You muted.
I'm swearing. Was just swearing. Good that I was muted. My situation is a little bit different because I don't do any paid gigs or anything where I'm audited, but technically I do want to do some walk around table, whatever, try get engaged in it. So I was thinking in just go out on the streets or in summertime when there are bars serving beer outside on tables and just approaching random people, random groups where I'm not asked to perform magic, but just do it. Well, technically there is always an issue. Do I need to get an allowance from the owners of the place or something like that? But putting that aside, how do I approach in such a situation when this is just on the street or some guys sitting on a bench or whatever? How do you approach that?
Kind of in the same way, really, to be perfectly honest. You just want to walk up, you want to establish credibility straight away. And just it's the only difference is it's a bit of a weird environment, even though when you're performing at an event, there's a good chance that they don't know that you're meant to be there. They understand that there's probably maybe going to be a magician or some sort of entertainment there. So when you're performing at a venue, they're going to expect you. When you're doing walking around in the street, they're most definitely going to expect you. So I think you just need to make it very clear what it is that you're doing when you walk over. I think it needs to be, hey, my name's Andreas. I'm a magician. I'm just walking around and performing magic for people because I love magic and I want people to share my love of magic as well. Can I show you something? Or, put that into your own style and your own script. I mean, you know,
Mm.
you're German, so it
Yeah.
probably is going to sound a lot more angry when you say it than when I say it. But love you, Andreas. But in all seriousness, just walk over and say it. Just kind of make it very clear what you're meaning to achieve. And I think what you would do as well is you want to remove any negatives when you have a conversation with people at the beginning. So when I say I'm not going to be here very long, I'm only going to show you a quick trick. That's because a negative is, oh my God, what happens if it's here for half an hour? I think if you're performing out to people in the street, you might want to add, hey, I don't want any money for this. I'm not asking you to pay me or tip me. I just would like to show some magic to you.
Mm. And then, well, I'm a little bit afraid that I look awkward when I'm just on my own without any partner or anyone accompanying me, approaching people. But I think that's just the way it is, and the situation I need to cope with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you just need to get over it. You know, it's a numbers game. It's a little bit like sales. Anyone who does sales will tell you not everyone's going to say yes. Every single no brings you closer to a yes. So just walk up to a group. If they say no, fine, fuck them. Go up to another group, go up to another group, and eventually you're going to find someone that will say yes. Win-win. Winner, winner, chicken
Um,
dinner. Simon Lovell's
something.
introduction. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Simon.
So I was just going to say something I used to do is do a practice night in a local bar once or twice a month, and I used a fire wallet to get the attention. I'd go up to the bar, buy a drink, and pull out a £10 note, and a big flame would come out. That way, everyone around you knows that you're a magician. It gets everyone to stop, look at you, and you're away. Then once you start doing one group, then if you make as much noise as possible, get everyone to clap, everyone to cheer you, other people know that you are there, and it becomes like a domino effect.
I used to use that in nightclubs. I used to open with a fire wallet, but well, not night when I was doing. I had a period of time where I was doing a lot of VIP rooms in nightclubs. So even though it was a nightclub, it wasn't that noisy because it was a VIP room. And I would walk up to people in this VIP room, and I'd walk up with a fire wallet, and I wouldn't set it on fire straight away. I'd walk up and I'd go, "Hey, my name's Craig. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the blah 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 blah. Just so you know, I am a." And as I said, I would let the wallet do its thing and the fire would go everywhere and they'd be like, there we go, yeah. And as I close it, and you had to get the timing on the line right, I go, yeah, my name's Craig and I'm a pyromaniac. I love fire. And it's kind of like just turning that whole thing on its head. They see that, they think magician, and then it's quite funny when it's almost like a release when they say pyromaniac. Yeah, a fire wallet's a great way to grab people's attention. Very quickly before I take Chris's question, because Chris is the next one. Simon Lovell had a great opening that he talked about in his lecture back in the day. So Simon Lovell, his opening when he went up to people, he would turn around and he'd walk over to them and he'd go, "Hey, my name's Simon. What's your name?" And they go, "Oh, my name's Christopher." "Oh, brilliant. What's your surname?" "Brown." "Christopher Brown. You are Christopher Brown. That is fantastic. I just want to let you know I've been looking for you. The venue have asked me to tell you that you have won second prize in the competition tonight. I don't know if you know competition was going on. It is. You've won second prize. Second prize is 2 free card tricks before dinner. It could be worse. You could have won first prize. That was 5 free card tricks before dinner. And it's funny because it's just a funny thing to say. It's a really funny opening bit. But the other thing is you get their name, and also you're telling them you're only going to do a couple of tricks. So at the same time, it's achieving the same thing. It's a really great opening. Back in the day, the opening in restaurants used to be, "Hey, has anyone dropped this white penknife? How about this black penknife? Has anyone dropped this back?" I don't think people do that anymore because it's shit. But I mean,
That
back
was
in
in
the
the
day,
That was on Sankey's Restaurant DVD.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that did it back in the day. It was written about in Magic Menu back in the 1980s. It's a bit hokey, but it worked. But everyone's got their own approach.
Yeah. Hey, Andreas, one thing to consider, especially if you're out, maybe you'd like to do some magic, but you're not quite sure. Don't discount the power of holding a prop in your hands. The number of times I've been holding a pack of cards, or the other night, quite simply, I told Craig this the other day. Random story I'll just share. This guy, I was sitting there drinking. It was after my gig. I was having a beer, and he said to me, "Oh, do you have a vape?" I was like, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Oh, can I have a puff off your vape?" I'm like, "No, I don't know you." No. So I said, "But I think I have a spare one." So I opened up my case, and he goes, "Oh, Rubik's Cube. Why do you have a Rubik's Cube?" I was like, "Oh, I'm a magician." And then all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, show us a trick." So sometimes just holding a pack of cards, somebody's going to say, "Oh, why do you have a pack of cards?" "Oh, I'm a magician." And the number of times someone's asked me to just then show them something, it's probably a 75% hit rate I've at least experienced. Of course, it's going to depend on your area, the type of environment, and all that.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to grab people's attention, really, Andreas, walk up to them with a rubber dildo. And bonus points if you can actually do a trick with the dildo as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's going to be a new project for me in 2027. Dildo magic. Coming soon to Alakazam. Anyway, Chris, you have a question.
It's just a download, or do we get the props as well, Chris?
Dude, we will make sure that you get the props.
I want the whole set, like the Vernay thumb tips. I want the Donald Trump version, the Epstein version with the 5 fingers, and I don't want separate ones. I want ones with delights, and fuck me.
Isn't
I've got a whole new act.
Isn't it that you get a do-it-yourself kit which mimics your
I think with the dildo,
original?
Andreas, with the dildo, it's all do it yourself, bro. I don't think it's a partner thing, right? This has gone really degenerate.
But you have to create your own. So you get the plastic mass stuff, and then you have to foam your dildo on
Probably 3D printed
routine with it.
Oh my
okay,
God!
Craig, we want a 9-hour tutorial, preferably with Lloyd as well.
Oh,
9 hours with Craig holding a cock in his hand. That is,
I think we can get Lloyd involved as long as the dildo is attached to a sheep. Then we'll be good.
Yeah. And Lloyd rolled is to lend a hand, or
Literally. Okay, that's taking it a completely different direction. Okay, Craig, back to the approach.
Back to Chris Brown. Chris,
sorry, Chris, hijacked again.
For those viewers who are still with us, here's a question. Couple of comments first. One, to piggyback on something Shane said about carrying a prop with you all the time. If you ever run into Eric Tate, for instance, at one of the conventions, if he's in a bar, if he's sitting there in a restaurant, he always has a deck of cards. He's always practicing card manipulations. Always. So you always know something's up, because even in a casino or a restaurant or what, still highly unusual for a guy to be sitting there playing with cards, while talking with people and stuff. But another thing is when approaching, and then I've got a kind of it's not a 2-pronged question really for you, Craig, but it is. When approaching tables, or when you're out and about, Andreas too, one of the things that I learned when I was cold calling for sales is I never went out to find prospects. I went out to meet people. That's it. The first few days, all you're doing is meeting people. You don't have to cash in. You don't have to show a trick. You just get comfortable going up, going, "Hey, I'm Andre. What do you do? Where y'all from around here?" Blah blah. Have a conversation and move on, and just get real comfortable talking with people about anything. And then you start throwing it in when you're really comfortable doing that. So that's a great way to practice talking with folks and not feel the pressure that you have to crank out be a show monkey or anything that day. But my question really is for Craig, and it's kind of a technical. I'm going to bring it back to the approach, which is what this whole thing was about. We've talked a lot about at shows, at mix and mingles, at corporate events and stuff. When you're doing a wedding gig or restaurant gig, and you're going to approach a table, do you still do the randomness that you would do at a corporate gig, or do you use a heavy reference from like the bride and groom or the owners of the restaurant going, "Hey, Bill and Sarah asked me to stop by. They asked me to do a little entertainment tonight. Do y'all have a couple of minutes? This is what we do." Or do you straight up try to introduce yourself with what you're doing there? And that would be for both restaurants and weddings. Do you tweak your talk track in order to include management of why you're there versus?
Yeah. In a restaurant, I will introduce myself as the house magician.
Okay.
So I will introduce myself as, "Hey, my name's Craig. I've got some exciting news for you. You have come here on Magic Night. Did you know this was Magic Night? Oh my God. I am the bearer of good news. It is Magic Night. What's even more crazy is I am the magician, which means it's my job to come over and do magic for you while you wait for your food to come out. You look especially delighted about this, sir." And that's kind of, I have that's kind of my whole shtick is just self-depreciating humor, taking the piss, very, very sarcastic. That's kind of my thing. So and that will stay regardless of which environment I'm in. So that always used to be my approach at restaurants. I'm the house magician. It's Magic Night. You get to see magic. And I haven't done a restaurant in a while, but I remember kind of saying, "Now you can't turn around and say no to me, because if you say no, it's a little bit like saying that fairies don't exist. If you say that you don't want to see magic to a magician somewhere in the world, a magician will die. You don't want that on your hands. So you better quickly watch a card trick," because I wanted to make sure I did perform. I didn't want to get pushed away on many tables in a restaurant, because if the staff saw that, if the manager saw that, they'd be like, "Hang on, why are we hiring this guy?" So I had a more of a forcible approach. I wanted them to see a trick. So I made that whole, a magician somewhere is going to die, which is funny, but it also makes me, gives me an in sort of thing. With a wedding, I don't really tweak it that much. They know whose wedding they're there for a lot of the time. If I have a vibe at the wedding that they're not going to want to see magic, I might invoke the name of the bride and groom. But generally, as a rule, I just come over and I go, "Hey, how you doing, guys?" And I will be a little bit more conversational about a wedding. I'll be go, because they don't know who I am. I go, "Hey, how you doing? Are you enjoying the wedding? Are you having a good time? Who's getting ready for the wedding breakfast? I've heard it's amazing here at this venue. My name's Craig, by the way. I'm actually part of the entertainment here today. There's a lot of stuff that they've got planned at this wedding. But I'm the magician, which means that I'm going to come around and do some magic for you. Do you like magic? You look like you love magic, sir. You look like you're a magic fan. Yeah, great. We're going to do some magic for you. We're going to do some magic for everyone. It's going to be incredible. It's going to blow your mind." And then just kind of go into it. I'm very assumptive. I'm very a kind of an assumptive, closed type of person. I don't even ask. And I think that's the key thing with me. I just never ask if they want to see magic, because I think if you ask the question, if you say, "Would you like to see magic?" it's very easy for them to say no. If I just start performing, it's less likely they're going to say no, and then they're going to end up enjoying it. So regardless of the environment I'm in, a lot of the time I just won't even ask. I'll just do, if that makes sense. But I don't really change much with a wedding. But with the restaurant, I do point out I'm the house magician.
Okay. Thanks.
Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, because that works both for privately owned restaurants that they would know the owners, for also chains. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Good neutral.
And back to you, Shane, who's got his hand up again. And I've just noticed wins the award for most Christmassy look for this VMC with your Christmas jumper. Nick comes a close second because he has a star behind him. And so, and everyone else is shit, including me. So, oh no, look, Bernard's got a present. So,
It's
That's
not
oh,
the
it's a pack of cards.
23rd. It's not the 23rd yet.
Nothing.
It was
nothing says Christmas like a Penguin Magic Christmas playing card sock.
Oh, is that what it's supposed to cover? Oh, okay.
It's meant to be for a deck of cards. You know,
It's kind of sad if it's you know.
I love how everyone's pulling out their Christmas decks. That's hilarious.
yeah, it was Christmas music night at the gig tonight, so you have to dress appropriately. So
Well,
It looks great.
la la la.
well, I only sing depressing music songs, so you know, I like to I like to do the anti-Christmas songs like Blink-182. I won't be home for Christmas and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. Not the question.
Good that you mentioned the Christmas. I need to get a Glenkinchie 12 mils.
Whoa. Oh.
So Craig, apologies if this was asked earlier when I had to pop off, but I had the last couple of gigs I've done, corporate event, and they had multiple entertainment. So they had roulette tables, poker tables, things like that. They had a DJ going. And what I found a couple of times is as I was walking around, the people who were not engaged in those other events, you know, I perform magic for them, certainly. But then I started running out of people that I hadn't already approached one or two times. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, what you would do in that event, because I felt quite odd going up to the roulette table or the poker table, going, "Oh, let me show you magic," when they're obviously those people are getting paid to entertain them for that, and then obviously the people dancing, you know, I wouldn't go up to those. So just some thinking around once you've made the circuit a couple of times and everyone else is otherwise engaged, you know, what do you do in that
This
circumstance?
is where you factor in how much time you've got and how many people are there. And you want to factor in if there's some dancing going on, if there's a DJ going on, if there's roulette tables going on. So if there's 100 people in that room and there's roulette tables, you know, take 30 people off. If there's a DJ, take another 20 people off. Okay, that leaves you with 50 people. How long you got? You got 2 hours, right? That means that we can spend a lot more time with each group. So then I'd be spending more time with each group. I'd be spending like 10 minutes per group. And that all means that I can take my time going around to people, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of the time with stuff like that, it's just about being organized and just kind of looking at what you've got and what you need to do to make sure that you stretch it out, if that kind of makes sense. Simon.
Yeah.
I love how the wall that you're sitting next to is on brand as well.
And I've got my Wayne Fox painting as well.
Good old Wayne. Good old Wayne.
Yeah. I did this corporate gig the other day. But quite a lot of the tables, they kind of just split up.
Mhm.
So by the time I got round to a table, half of them had gone to the bar. Some of them were at the photo booth, and there was like 2 people on the table left. Would you entertain the people at the table? Or
No,
would
if
you?
you started doing table magic and then the meal has reached its natural end, and so the people have wandered off doing other things, and you've maybe left 1 or 2 tables that you haven't got to, but there's only a couple of people on the table, I wouldn't be doing the magic for the 2 people on the table. I'd be looking into other areas because it just kind of looks bad if you're just sitting there on a big table and it's you and 2 other people and there's a bunch of people there, other places, and you're just doing it to those 2 people. I try to think what it will look like to the clients. I try to think, right, okay, what if the client isn't aware of any of this situation and comes in and sees me sitting down with just 2 people when everyone else is all over the place, how will that look? And I don't think that would look great. I think it'll look better if I will look better as a performer if I'm over there and I've got a big group of people around me and they're all going, "Oh my God, the magician is amazing." That's going to kind of be a better scenario for the client to see me in. So I kind of think of that as well, kind of how does this look to the clients?
I think I went over to the photo booth. People were waiting there, and I entertained the people while I was waiting.
Yeah, that works.
But yeah, it was so loud. And, it was quite a tough gig.
People, unfortunately, get loud at corporate events, loud and drunk.
What do you do if they are too drunk and they start grabbing you, or they grab your props, or just be really, really obnoxious?
Well, now we're dealing with hecklers. That's a completely different situation. Now
Yeah.
we're dealing with the alpha male. I don't really get many alpha male issues, and I think it comes to the fact that, like, the way that you've seen me perform on stage, you've seen the videos I've posted of me performing. I very quickly people realize, okay, I don't think we should fuck with this guy, because I love it when people heckle me, because it gives me a chance to kind of heckle back. And also because, again, shaved head, tattoos, tall, you know what I mean? People look at me and they go, probably not a good idea to fuck with this guy. I'll never forget walking on stage. I taught Alex Foden how to do stage magic, a guy called Alex Foden, really great magician. And I put an act together for him. He wanted to do a cabaret show, so I taught him an act. And I was trying to get him to do it in his own style. And what happened is he was doing it exactly the same way as me. And he was trying to tell the same jokes without understanding why the jokes work the way they do. And if you don't do it the right way, it can come across as insulting. And I'm not insulting the spectators at all at any point. I'm actually kind of really more insulting myself than the spectators. And he went on stage on his first gig, and he made a joke that he heard me make, not understanding the context of the joke and the way that I tell it. And he said it to this girl in the audience, and her boyfriend came up on stage and squared up with him on stage and said, "You better apologize now, so I'm going to knock you out." And that was in his first cabaret show, like 10 minutes into his first show.
Will Smith, was it?
No. No, it wasn't. The point I go down the route of that is I don't really get many obnoxious people, because they kind of realize, especially in close up, because they realize it's probably not a good idea to fuck with me. If it happens, you know, the key thing that I would say is, it's difficult without knowing the exact situation that might happen. If somebody was messing with my props, if I put a chop cup down on the table, for example, and somebody picked it up, I would probably go, "Hey, mate, can you put that back down for me?" And if they were messing around and they wouldn't put it down, I think I'd break character at that point. And I'd say, "Look, you know, I don't mean to be funny, but that's mine. I'm using it to perform for you guys, and I'm trying to perform, and you're not helping. So could you do me a favor and put it down for me, please?" And then if he was starting to be a bit of an alpha male, I'd probably kind of have to put him in his place, which I've done, you know, from time to time. I don't like to get to that point, but if people were messing with my props, that's a big no-go for me. That's not something that I kind of take lightly, because they don't know what those props are. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to achieve by doing that? That is not a thing that's conducive to making my job easy. You know, it's like that old, and again, it very much depends on the situation. Like, it very much depends on the situation. So for example, you know, it's a different approach at a family restaurant as it is to a military base. I was at a military base last week doing close-up magic, and I think Thomas Maloney was there, so he can tell you this. And I was performing to these squaddies who had been drinking a little bit, and I was doing a coin routine, and I handed these silver dollars out to examine, and 3 of them had come back and 1 of them hadn't. And the guy looked very, very guilty when he, you know, when the other 3 coins came back, and I was like, "Hey, mate, can I grab that coin back so I can do the trick?" And he's like, "What coin?" And I use that old Jimmy Carr line. I don't know if you've heard it. It's like, I just turned around and I said, "I need the coin to do my magic. You're messing with my job here. You don't see me coming around to where you work and slapping the cocks out of your mouth." Now, that works because of the environment I was in. I was in a military base. Everyone was like, "Right." It was all that sort of thing. And it worked in that environment. I wouldn't do that at a wedding. I wouldn't do that at a family event. And also that turned it around. Everyone was like, "Hey!" He gave me the coin back and shook my hand, right? So it's the experience of knowing when to say stuff like that or when to handle a situation like that in a particular way. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, so it's very subjective. It's very difficult to say what you would do because it very much depends on the environment. It depends on the situation. It depends on you as a performer, the type of person you are, what you feel you can get away with. So if anyone's seen me perform Toxic Plus, I love Toxic Plus, and I have this line where I go up to somebody and I go, look, I always go up to a lady and I always look for a larger lady. And it's an old line from years ago. I go up to a larger lady and I go, hey, we've never met before, have we? And I have no idea what your year of birth is. And I'm not going to ask you. I should never ask a lady her age. So instead, can you tell me how much you weigh, please? And I do it with a real deadpan. Can you tell me what you weigh? Everybody laughs. She laughs. I go, no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm kidding. But Thomas Maloney, who learned Toxic Plus after I did it, I heard him do it the other day, and he said, I could never get away with that line about a woman's weight. That's just not something I would do. He's hyper aware of knowing what his character would get away with and what his character wouldn't get away with. And it just happens that my character is a little bit like me with the volume turned up, an obnoxious prick. So, I can get away with a lot more than a lot of other people. So it's about knowing what you can get away with. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if somebody's being a dick to you, the easiest solution is to just step away and just go, okay, look, I'm here. I'm being paid to perform. I'm not being paid to put up with stuff like that. So I'm just going to go and perform for somebody else. I hope you guys have a really good evening. And just walk away. And I've done that once or twice in my career. And my goal is, if I do that, I'm going around to every single table nearby that table, and I'm going to try and get those tables screaming their heads off, because I want the first table to know what they're missing. Because fuck them.
So there you go, guys. That is another video in the bag. Talk Magic will be back. Not next week, Mike. It's not next week, is it? Because next week's Christmas. We've got some special Christmas content. Yeah, we've got special Christmas content. I believe next week we've got an hour of Nemid Phoenix in a Santa Claus costume reading wholesome Christmas carols to the Magic TV audience. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge that needs selling in Brooklyn. Something is going to come up. Don't ask me. I bet you Michael doesn't even know. He's scheduling all this shit. I bet he hasn't got a clue.
No clue.
What's going up next Saturday, Michael?
Don't know.
No clue. But we've got something. We definitely have something, and it won't involve interviewing somebody. But the following Saturday, I'll be back with an interview, and I'll be back here on Magic TV with another Talk Magic. Until then, thank you so much for watching. The Q&A and the review show special is tomorrow. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.